How are you?
I'm 7.5 now. Yeah. You saw me when I was like 6.
Part of it.
So we can just do the whole thing. Just see around. People just survive Yeah. Oh, hi, Trent. Glad you're here. Good to see you.
How are you?
Do you remember my
Yes, sir. Came a long ways. How's it going?
I got here about 9 o'clock last night.
Straight through. Yeah.
Lexi, you remember Trent? I don't know if you're not. This is my daughter, Lexi. And this is Peter, her boyfriend. This is Trent.
Nice to meet you.
A long family friend.
Yeah.
1 year old.
Yeah. Say it.
He's an old family friend.
Really old. He and BJ were in each other's weddings.
Yeah.
They've known each other since they were like 3.5 and 4.
Oh, yeah. Forever.
Yeah, forever.
Yep.
So we barely kind of talked last summer, so
Mm-hmm.
not like super long, but
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah, his wife is Lindsay. She's pretty blonde. She's at work today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bless her heart.
I'm here representing.
There you
The
go.
boys are in school, so.
He has twins also. And boys. And then there's another boy. There's 3.
Yeah. 3 of them. Lots of boys. Yeah, that was.
Just you know, that's a great example of how things could be, and sometimes should be. Done in other situations where it's like, oh heck no.
Yeah, right. That's right. Yeah. You're right.
But it's
Worked out for us. And so I think couldn't tell the difference.
because you
Travel together. They married. Fitting in.
I'd say she's impressed.
Please rise. Good morning. My name is Brandon McCombs, and it is my honor to be here today to celebrate the life of Charles Ernest Maxey. We called him Charlie, and Charlie was a man who had a laugh that was infectious, and he was a man who enjoyed life and family, friends. And today we're going to celebrate his life, his legacy, his DNA. You're here today because he meant so much to you. And as those days, weeks, months, and years to come, you'll find yourself missing him. And you'll find where that special place in your heart, in your life. And not only will we find that Charlie put a smile on your face, but I believe we'll see that he put a smile on your heart. Let's start with a word of prayer. God, we thank you for this day, this time, this opportunity to celebrate life. And God, even though our hearts are saddened and filled with grief, God, we thank you for the ability to stop the chaos that surrounds us and remember a life that gave so much. Bless family and friends. In Jesus' name, amen. Charles Ernest Maxey, best known as Charlie, passed away on Monday, August 2nd, 2021. He was 50 years old. He passed away due to a tragic accident in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He was able to save 3 lives by donating his organs. This selfless last act characterizes the wonderful man that he was during his life. Charlie was born on August the 3rd, 1970, to Deanne and Ron Maxey in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He was raised there and graduated from school in Oklahoma City. He joined the Army out of high school and served overseas in Germany in Operation Desert Storm. He became a dad in 1988. When his daughter Shauna was born, she became his pride and joy. He met Julia Love in Lawton, and they were married for 10 years. She adopted his daughter Shauna, and they had their son Corbin 3 years later. After this time in the Army, he graduated from Cameron University in Lawton, Oklahoma, with a history degree, moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma around 2002, and started working at St. Francis Hospital, where he worked for 12 years. He met Julia Stowe while working at St. Francis Hospital, and they were together for over 17 years. He became a grandpa in 2014 to Madison and Michael. He was known to the grandkids and the family as Grumps. Much of his free time was devoted to spending time with Eminem. He adored those kiddos. His favorite hobbies included reading, watching football with his daughter and her partner Justin, attending live football and basketball games with his family and Julie's family, and spending time with the core 4, him, Julie, and their best friends Kelly and Mike. Hanging out with his grandchildren, playing card games and board games, and going to the movies or streaming them at home, reading, jokes, and listening to music. His musical interests were vast. He liked pretty much every genre out there, but he was a huge, and you might say his guilty pleasure was Madonna, 80s hair bands, and rock music. He was also a huge fan of the Dallas Cowboys. Even though they lost last night, they did play well. I thought about him watching the whole game. And every time Tom Brady threw a touchdown, I thought, he wouldn't like that. OU Sooners and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Anyone who knew Charlie knew of his love for Star Wars and the whole franchise. He was a major history buff and could tell you just about any history fact you ever wanted to know. Charlie is survived by his children, Shauna Lively and Justin, and Corbin Maxey, his grandchildren Madison and Michael, his brothers Ron Maxey and Alicia, David Maxey and Annie, and Gary Forbes and Leanne, his sister Melissa Powell and Kyle, his stepmother Joyce Roman, and many extended family members. He is preceded by both of his parents and grandparents. You know, when we read an obituary, it's that short painting, it's a snapshot Polaroid of someone's life, and it gives us the highlights. See, there was so much more to who Charlie was. So to kind of expound upon some of that, we've invited Shauna to come and speak and tell us a little bit more about her dad.
Hi everyone. I'm not a good public speaker, but I'm going to do my best. Oh geez. So I thought, I'd have a good 20, 30 years before I had to plan something like this. So it's been a very long month, but I appreciate everyone who reached out and helped and just made sure that we were doing okay. I think one of the hardest parts was, you take somebody who's had probably 500,000 pictures in their life, and you have to narrow it down to 100. That was the most painstaking part of this entire process. I didn't expect that. But I got it narrowed down. And through Facebook and things like that, I'll make sure that you guys see some more of the pictures that didn't make the slideshow. Dad was a huge Madonna fan. We always gave him a hard time about that. I'm trying to not take the feedback out. Okay. Watching the football game last night was a little bit hard, just because he wasn't there, and we always watch football together. But he would have been very proud with how the Cowboys played, even though they lost. So I know he was up there going, "Yeah, we almost beat Tom Brady." And I have this Cowboys sweater from, I promise you, it's from before I was born, that he held on to forever, and I wore it last night. I was just thinking of him the whole time. Dad was definitely a social butterfly. That's 100% where I get it from. There was never a stranger to him. He would become friends with anybody, and he touched so many people's lives over the span of his 50 years. I'm gonna miss most his laugh. I can still hear it, and he always commented anytime. Madison makes a lot of the same faces that I make, and has a lot of the same attitude I have. I don't know about that one, but he would always look at me. She would make a face and he would look at me and go, I've seen that look before. So I'm gonna miss that a lot. And you never wanted to play Trivial Pursuit with him, because if you weren't on his team, you would lose. There was no question about it. He loved these grandkids. I tell you what, they were his pride and joy. Eminem. That, I think he probably had 20,000 pictures just from the time that both of them were born with them. So they have lots of good memories to look on. And one of Julie's sisters made the kids blankets, made each of them a blanket that has pictures of them and their grumps on it, and so they can have that blanket for the rest of their lives. I think that's made it a little bit easier for Madison, at least, to be able to have that to hold on to. He was goofy. He always could make you laugh and smile. I'm just gonna miss his hugs He was a really good hugger. I'm a hugger. I hug everybody. So this whole, during COVID when you can't hug people, that was not a good time. So I get my hugs from him too. I'm going to miss his hugs and love you, kiddo. That's how he ended every conversation with us. Love you, kiddo. So he was a great man that touched a lot of lives. And I hope you guys are just able to remember the good times with him too.
Thank you, Schaudt. Oh, what do we say about Grumps? We say that the fact that he didn't get that nickname because he was grumpy. He got that nickname because that's what the kiddos call him. And he loved them. As Shauna talked about his laugh, and something that she's going to miss. It's something that was kind of, you could walk into a room and you could hear the laughter and you know it was him. Charlie had a way to make people smile. He was the man that could show up to a celebration of life like this and everybody be down and upset, and he could put a smile on your face just with his presence. Why? Because he was infectious. There are certain people in our lives that have that ability to transcend the mood and to take your frowns and turn them upside down into those smiles that permeate our lives. And that was who he was. Because of that laugh, being that social, I love the phrase that Shauna used. She called him the social butterfly. But see, he knew no strangers. He knew everyone. Everyone knew him. And if he didn't know you, he was the guy that walked up and said, hi, and he got to know you. Why? Because friendships meant everything to him. And he made friends everywhere he went. Whether he was working at St. Francis, working the front desk in patient transport, doing clerical, wherever he was making friends. It was not uncommon for people to be in the hospital, for him to befriend them, and then for them to come back because of the friendships that he made with them. Just to say hi. But that's somebody like Charlie who knew how to put a smile on their face. See, one of the things Shauna, as you and I talked, one of the things that really stood out to me was people like Charlie don't just put a smile on your face. And I said this as we started today, that he's the type of man that put a smile on your heart. Because when you walked away, you just felt better about things. Because he made a difference in your life. Somebody might describe him as goofy, kind, compassionate. I believe that M&M's would say that he was fun and silly. But most importantly, he was loving. He loved you. And you meant the world to him. In donating his organs, we know that he helped many people. And what one last act could Charlie do than to do something like that? Because his life was about helping others. The old proverb says that you don't look at your own interest, but look to the interest of others. Consider others more important than yourself. You can't think of anyone that better describes than Charlie. Well, so we knew that, we heard he's a history buff. We knew you didn't want to play Trivial Pursuit with him, unless you were on his team, then you could win. We know that he loved the Dallas Cowboys. We know that he loved the OU Sooners. We know he was a big sports fan in general. But he was a jokester. He was someone who enjoyed a good laughter. He was somebody that today would say, hey, have you had a smile today? Shauna, I wanted to tell you, I had a phone call the other day, and during the day, I do a lot of therapy work, working with families and doing counseling for children. And a friend of mine called and asked if I could see a young man. He was in court, and I said I would love to see him. He said his family is being talked to by the judge. It looks like they're going to be taking him from his family. As I heard this story, I kind of thought of you. And I said, okay. He said, they're going into court. Let me call you back. I said, okay. So I sat by my phone. About 20 minutes later, he called. He said they've taken him from his mom and dad because he's been beaten. And they need a loving family. So they're going to give him to the aunt and the uncle. And the kid stood up and said, no, you can't do that. Everyone in my family beats me. And the judge said, there's got to be somebody we can send you to. Grandparents. He said, no. Judge took a recess, took the young man to the back. As they had a talk, judge comes out, and they've awarded custody to the Dallas Cowboys because they beat no one. She asked me to share that story with you. I truly did have a friend that told me that story, and it took 30 minutes of my life for it to unfold. And as Sean and I were talking, and we were kind of living back through Charlie's life, and I said, hey, let me tell you a story. And I was telling her the story. My wife told me, she said, Brandon, you cannot tell that story. I said, the daughter asked me to. And she goes, oh, I'll pray for all of you. But that's a joke that Charlie would have loved. In lieu of last night, he would have really liked it. Because no matter how good they played, they still found a way to lose. He was a jokester, but he was a guy who loved Post-it notes. He was a guy who would carry them around, he'd write on it. Why? Because he'd hear a song and he'd write it down, and he'd want to go back and pull it up or listen to it. And we heard he loved Madonna. And I said, what's his favorite song? Is it Like a Virgin? Is it Material Girl? Is it Vogue? I can only see him maybe busting a move, And Sean looks at me and goes, it was Lucky Star. 80s hair bands. He was a guy that he knew how to have fun, and he wanted you to enjoy life with him. Make no mistake, we're here today to celebrate, but it was a tragic accident that took our friend, our dad, our Grumps from us. And even though this world is very cruel and it may take many things from us, it will never take the memories that flood your heart and your mind. See, the legacy and the DNA, as we read through the obituary and we saw the family and we heard all their names, as we hear Shauna speak and as we hear about the things in life that meant so much, and that he never met a stranger and everyone loved him. See, that is the legacy and DNA that changes us moment by moment. See, you're going to leave here and your day is going to go on. And tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll go about your daily business. And in the days, weeks, months, and years to come, people always ask me when these are over, how do we move on? Where do I go? What do I do? And what we do is we honor those that go before us by how we live now, how we celebrate who they are. Charlie was a man who, maybe the next time the Sunday paper pops out, grab the comics. Cut the comics out of the paper. Put it up so you can read it throughout the week. Make a collage of it. And remember, that's something he loved. I was talking to a friend. As soon as I got off the phone with you the other day, I started to laugh. And he said, what are you laughing for? And I said, how many daughters do you have? He said, 4. I said, have you ever read the book, The Rules for Dating My Daughter? He goes, no, but it sounds like one I need. But see, that was the kind of guy Charlie was. Huge Star Wars fan. Would have loved to have known what he thought about the last 3 movies. You're here today because he meant so much to you. And as Shauna said, she's going to miss his laugh. She's going to miss him saying, hey, kiddo. And before you leave today, give her a hug. She said even despite COVID, she still wants a hug. Why? Because that's honoring her dad and her. Because that was the kind of guy he was. You're going to miss watching football games, hearing the stories, losing in Trivial Pursuit. You're going to miss his presence in your life. But friends, before we leave today, let me share with you 3 easy things that I believe 100% he would want you to know. Number 1 is this: if you're not handy, you better be smart. Because he wasn't handy. Sean, I wish you could have seen all the smiles I just got. Like, they're permeating the building. Like, people know. Not the handyman, but he was smart. Use your gifts and your talents that you've been blessed with to the best of your ability, because that's what we learned from him. Second is, always be the dishwasher. As Shauna shared that one with me, I kind of giggled, and she said, well, that's what he always did. We get done eating, and he would run, and he would do the dishes. And she said, I guess I'm going to have to pick up that. She said, because what my dad taught me is we got to serve. Friends, that's how we honor those in our life. Just pull a Charlie today. Whose dishes can you wash? Next time you got to do the dishes, men, remember you're doing it because that's what Charlie would have done. Women, when you want your man to do the dishes, say, go pull a Charlie. Do the dishes.
I do the dishes.
There you go. And last is this: be proud of your kids. Be proud of your grandkids. And remember that family comes first. Because that's who he was. See, today, friends, we're here to gather to celebrate life and the tragic nature of how it begins, ends, and everything in between. Make no mistake, the chaos that surrounds us has given us a moment to stop and reflect on a life that changed us. You're going to see this little video montage and hear songs. You're going to think, you're going to reminisce. It is our hope, it is our thoughts, and it is our prayers that as you see this, as you hear this, it is something that comes alive and reminds you of the part in your life that he played. That today is not the day that we just stop and celebrate and then move on. But today we stop, we celebrate, we remember. Because someone may say that Charlie was our hero. Shauna, I'll tell you, I don't think he was just your hero. I don't think he was a hero to very many. I think he was a legend. Because in the line from Sandlot, heroes get remembered, but legends never die. And that is who Charlie was. Watch this.
I set out on a narrow way many years ago, hoping I would find true love along the broken road. But I got lost a time or two, wiped my brow and kept pushing through. I couldn't see how every sign pointed straight to you. Every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pointing me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. Yes, please. I think about the years I spent just passing through. I'd like to have the time I lost and give it back to you, but you just smile and take my hand. You've been there, you understand. It's all part of a grander plan, and that is coming true. Every long lost dream led me to where you are. Others who broke my heart, they were like northern stars, pulling me on my way into your loving arms. This much I know is true, that God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. That God bless the broken road that led me straight to you. That God bless the broken road that led me straight to you.
Darkness, my old friend, I've come and talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping left its seeds while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remains with the sound of silence. In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone, the halo of a street lamp, I turned my collar to cold and damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split in the night and touched the sound of silence. And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking. People hearing without listening. People writing songs and voices never shared. And no one dared disturb the sound of silence. For say now you do not know silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words and I might teach you. Take my arms and I might reach you. But my words, like silent raindrops, fell, echoed in the wells of silence. And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning, and the words that it was pouring. And the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, whispered in the sound of silence.
On the back of your program, your brochure, has a poem that I like to read to you. It says, "Death is nothing at all. I have only slipped into the next room. I am I and you are you. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak to me in the easy way which you used to, always used. Put no difference in your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever that household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without effect, without the trace of shadow on it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is unbroken continuity. Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am waiting for you, for an interval somewhere, very near, just around the corner, because all is well." Today we have celebrated a life that I believe, just as it put a smile on my heart, I believe it has put one on yours. And even though with sadness and grief we say goodbye, we say goodbye to a life that changed us, and that we are all better people for who Charlie continues to be in us. On behalf of the family, thank you for being here today to celebrate his life.
Any place to go on that. Thank you so
Got someone to go to?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's you know, we go to
You got me seeing young little you. No man. That was like other than never need anything.
Yeah, sorry.
Needed.
touch those things every time I go out.
It's perfect. Most of them are like, oh, I got all these people like this. That's exactly how I want it.
I have
Keep his car.
Thanks for letting me be a part of it.